Welcome to the sleeping world. In the great southwestern deserts of North America, no two landscapes are the same. There are low deserts, which can reach temperatures of 120 degrees or more, dotted with rattlesnakes and the tall, iconic saguaro cactus. There are high mountains with snow-capped peaks, and some of the most majestic canyons on Earth, carved deep by rivers whose work is not yet finished, still scraping ever lower into our world as they move sediment and shape their own pathways through the land. One of those rivers is the Rio Grande. It's the longest river in the North American Southwest and begins as a splay of trickling streams at the base of the San Juan Mountains in what is known as the state of Colorado, just east of the Continental Divide. Water that falls west of this divide makes the journey toward the Pacific Ocean. Water that falls east takes a different route. It flows toward the Atlantic. In the case of the Rio Grande, the river leaves the high mountains and flows south, then east, toward its terminus in the Gulf of Mexico. As the Rio Grande leaves the high mountains, about a quarter of the way into its journey, it passes through many miles of high desert. This is a dry environment, but at a high altitude, so it can see snow in the winter, and it's often much colder than you might associate with the word desert. Toward the southern end of what we now call New Mexico, the Rio Grande makes a pit stop at a large dam called Elephant Butte. Here, we exit the river basin and enter the plains of the high desert. We head northeast, where the land sprawls out and scrub brush blankets the desert floor. Scruffy green and yellow bushes, perfectly suited for this dry land, reach skyward, now darkening as dusk sets over the desert valley. Against the deepening sky, we pass over craggy desert peaks. Then sweeping below them, we find a wide desert plain. The valley is dry and quiet. For now. Approaching the center of this valley, we find a sudden rocky drop-off. A steep cliffed ravine cradling a red-brown arch of volcanic rocks. The archway opens into the earth below. This is the Jornada Cave. If we look to the cave floor, there is not much happening. A few bugs, guano, dry dirt. But tracing a line to the wall, then up along its curve, we reach, on the inside of the arch, the ceiling of the cave. Here, hanging upside down, we find a large colony of Mexican free-tailed bats. So many, in fact, that the cave ceiling is a shimmering mass of black fur dotted by protruding little ears. In the summer, hundreds of thousands of bats live here. During the busiest times, the city of bats in this cave can grow into the millions. Tonight, as the world outside slows down, the bats are just waking up. One bat near the entrance opens her small eyes and begins to sway a little, listening to the commotion of hundreds of thousands of other bats getting ready for their nightly routine. This bat experiences the world much differently than a human. She has a keen sense of smell and uses scent to identify other bats. Smell is especially important for female bats to identify their own young, who by this point in the summer are elsewhere in the cave, all grouped together in a sort of nursery area. Tonight, the cave smells of volcanic dust, and a faint lingering waft from the vegetation outside the cave, now cooling after a long day in the direct sun. To be a Mexican free-tailed bat is to measure about 3.5 inches long and weigh just 12 grams, about the weight of a strawberry. The bat, of course, is a mammal and wears a coat of fine dark fur. This Mexican free-tailed bat has a tail that, as the name implies, protrudes from the body more independently than other bat species. And she spends most of her downtime upside down. Bats have evolved to hang in places that are hard for predators to reach. So when she is home, the most comfortable position is hanging from the ceiling. As a Mexican free-tailed, she's purely nocturnal and tends to live in large communities called roosts. The species is very communal. Mexican free-tails are known for roosting anywhere that's dry and cool, often taking up residence in human-made structures like under bridges in busy cities. This female is a migrating bat and has lived in many places between here and Mexico. In the last year alone, she spent time roosting in trees, under palm fronds, in other caves, and beneath a few bridges. But these roosts can be dangerous because they are more exposed to predatory raptors. The isolated location and arid climate here at Jonada Bat Caves in southern New Mexico makes it the perfect spot to raise her young. The Jonada Bat Caves were formed by volcanic activity. Long ago, the lava flowed like rivers. As the edges of the lava cooled and turned into rock, they each created solid tubes through which the molten lava continued to flow like a milkshake through a straw. When these two rivers of lava collided, they created a massive arch that we now call Jonada Cave. Today, the walls of the cave that are visible are a dark gray-red. But as dusk becomes night and the bats begin to stir, the female bat sees the walls lose their hue and fade into shadow. Thousands of bats flitter around her, socializing ahead of their nightly venture out. At the mouth of the cave, The dusky air is beginning to cool, but the red rocks are still warm. It is high summer, and during the day, it's hot out. 90 to 100 degrees Fahrenheit is not uncommon. But here, in the high desert, a 90-degree day could mean only the 50s or 60s at night. This evening, massive thunderclouds have built up across the valley to the west. But at the cave, no rain has fallen. It is early in the monsoon season, and much of the yearly precipitation will come as big bursts, then flash floods in the summer heat. High summer also means the shortest nights of the year, an important consideration for a bat as they are strictly nocturnal. The thunderclouds are a brilliant pink on the horizon, then a dull purple, then a muted grey. Already, without much humidity to hold the heat, the temperature begins to drop as night falls. The mouth of the cave is dark and still. Then, a single Mexican free-tailed bat emerges. He flutters past, over the rocky ledge at the mouth of the cave and into the dusky sky. Seconds later, he's followed by several more bats. Then a few dozen. And then thousands. The female bat near the front of the cave, who just woke up, takes note and joins the party, letting go of her roost in the cave ceiling and dropping far enough to bat her wings and take flight. Now, she joins one of the great wonders of the natural world. The tens of thousands of bats form a sort of river flying out of the cave in an ordered flow, not much different from that of the Rio Grande, about 10 miles to the west. The sounds of thousands of wings create a deep, papery buzz. To humans, the occasional bat call is audible as a chirp. Many of the other calls are higher than human hearing, just meant for the ears of other bats. Now that night has fallen, the bats have a job to do. Most bats are insectivores and must eat their entire weight in bugs before morning. The stakes are even higher for the bat who has a newborn back in the cave. She needs to get enough calories to not only sustain herself, but to produce milk for her tiny pup. Just a few weeks earlier, this bat birthed her pup while hanging upside down. Then she caught the baby in her wings and eventually delivered it to the nursery. It's there now, safe, with the other pups while she's out for the night. As the bats flow out of the cave in a dark column, they eventually begin to fan out. Imagine a river flowing into a wide expanse. Together at first, then slowly splitting over and over until it sinks into the earth. Some bat species tend to stay at a specific altitude, but the Mexican free-tailed bats have an impressive range. From just above the desert floor, each bat can reach all the way to 10,000 feet in the sky, the height of 8 Empire State Buildings stacked on top of each other. Every bat will make a decision of where to hunt for the night. With so many other bats around, they will try to go where the bugs are, but where they can hunt without too much interference. Many bat species are fairly solitary creatures and roost with just a few other bats or small families. But Mexican free-tailed bats are wildly social. They roost in huge groups and fly together in bat clouds. They coordinate flight to some degree, so they aren't constantly bumping into each other. Despite the phrase, blind as a bat, there are no known species that are actually blind. That term was coined by humans who didn't understand bats' flying patterns and assumed they couldn't see well and were flying in circles. However, many bats have excellent eyesight. What seems from the ground to be an erratic flight pattern is in fact an expertly choreographed routine to catch flying bugs. Bats, like us, have favorite meals. Depending on the region they live in and the presence of crops or migratory bug highways, a bat may go for many small bugs, fewer big bugs, or a mix of both. This female bat seems to love beetles and moths, which are both high on the menu. Cornworm moths and cotton ball worm moths are of special import if she can find them. Both are like eating a nutritious, mouth-watering snack to her. However, this bat can also be a nutritious, mouth-watering snack to other predators here in the desert. As the bat leaves the cave, the dark rocks are still warm. Snakes bask on the desert floor, but they're not a threat as long as she's in flight. If she hits the ground, she could be food for snakes, foxes, and all kinds of other carnivorous animals. And the sky is not without its risks either. Hawks and owls can, and do, pick bats out of the air. Lucky for this bat, she's an expert flyer and is adept at sensing the presence of flying predators. Tonight, this female bat is starting low. From her path above the desert floor, she can see many of the local residents: rabbits, lizards, mice, gray foxes. The sound of a coyote can be heard in the distance. Another mammal, living a very different life in this landscape. As she establishes an altitude she likes, under 100 feet above the ground, where bugs seem to be plentiful, she spots an appetizer. Though it's just about dark, she can see a moth, clear as day, fluttering in the cool air a few dozen feet above the ground. And with the flick of her wings, she changes direction, opens her mouth, and darts toward the flying bug. The moth takes note and tries to outmaneuver her, but the bug is much too late. This bat takes her first bite of what will surely be many over the course of the night. But it's not just seeing a bug that allows the bat to locate her meals. Perhaps most of all, this bat experiences her world through sound. The Mexican free-tailed bat, like many bat species, uses echolocation for flying, for hunting, and to map out the world around her. The mechanism is simple in theory. This female bat will make a very high-pitched chirping noise, then map how it bounces back to her. With long, protruding, fuzzy ears, she can hear impeccably well, picking up on frequencies many times higher than the highest frequency humans can hear. This bat lives in an entirely different world of sound than we do. If humans could hear echolocation, this is what it would sound like. When slowed down and pitched down to the range of human hearing, these calls sound like tonal chirps reverberating in the environment. In reality, they are rapid clicks that shoot out and back faster and higher than we are capable of perceiving. Some of the bat's sounds, like clicks and screeches, are audible to us, but many are not. They typically communicate between 40 and 75 kilohertz. This is much higher than what humans can hear, which maxes out at 20 kilohertz. Anything above this is an ultrasonic sound. However, bats are quite adaptable and can drop their pitch to between 10 to 95 kilohertz when something is passing through their flight path. Once the bat makes her echolocation noise, she's able to hear how that sound bounces back to her. So, if she's in a cave, the echolocation sound will immediately hit every surface of the cave and then bounce back to her, allowing her to sense the size and texture of the cave's walls. It's like she's using ultrasonic sound to touch the entire cave at once. She uses this incredible ability to locate bugs in flight. So in addition to sight, the bat can make a sound and instantaneously know where a bug is, understand its trajectory, and fly over to eat it. Tonight, this bat finds many more meals in this spot between 30 and 100 feet above the scrub brush, and she eats well. Looking down at the desert floor from above, we see snakes and rabbits navigating through the brush. Above them, bugs crawl along the scraggly branches of the scrub. Then zooming out, we begin to see the flying bugs and bats in chase. Zooming out more, the bats and bugs become a sort of thin cloud, just a haze between us and the desert, spread out enough to see through, but each engages in a life or death struggle to eat, and for the bugs to avoid being eaten. But this female bat and the other Mexican free-tails have one major advantage. The Mexican free-tailed bat is the fastest flying animal in the world. With a top speed recorded at 100 miles per hour, the Mexican free-tailed bat is faster than falcons or osprey and far faster than land animals. The cheetah and the pronghorn can run between 60 and 65 miles per hour, just 2/3 the speed that this bat can fly. Some birds do reach faster speeds while diving, but in terms of wing-powered flight, this female bat has them beat. And the bugs she's after might not even see her coming. In the blink of an eye, this bat can emit an echolocation sound, hear where a bug is, and change direction mid-flight with enough speed to snatch a fast bug right out of the air. It is now well past midnight, and a waning crescent moon sets in the western distance, dipping beneath the thunderheads. The bat continues to catch bug after bug, eating heartily, darting around the night sky. But from the west, she hears a sound much, much lower than the ultrasonic sound of her fellow bat's echolocation. Thunder. The air is still dry, and the thunder is many miles away, but the bats take note. Nighttime rain is not a frequent occurrence here in the high desert, but during the monsoon season, anything can happen. As the storm cloud hits the sliver of moon, it illuminates in fits an array of lightning from within. We're too far to see the bolts, but it's a diffused display, like a camera flash beneath a bed sheet. This could mean trouble. If the rain comes, the bugs leave. If the bugs leave, the bats will have to go home hungry. In fact, bats will return to their cave if it rains pretty much at all. Luckily for this bat, even in monsoon season, rain is usually patchy here and doesn't tend to last long. This far from the storm, the female bat only feels the wind pick up. This can throw some bats off course, but she's skilled and can use the wind to create lift, exploring different elevations, fluttering and soaring with incredible speed. As the breeze begins to run across the small hairs of her giant ears, the bat dives after a particularly juicy bug. But the wind blows the bug to safety, and as she misses with a snap of an empty mouth, she decides to explore a new location. The bat rises higher into the air, then heads to the west. Since bats are insectivores, they play a crucial role in keeping bug populations down. Bugs in all parts of the world tend to congregate around specific plants. Many have favorite species. With the rise of monocrops in modern agriculture, this can mean dense concentrations of specific types of bugs in one area. Without bats and other insect eaters, the bugs could overpopulate and ultimately be devastating for the plants. So bats play a vital role in maintaining balance in their ecosystems. The same goes to some extent for more diverse ecosystems as well, like the riparian corridor around the Rio Grande River, to which the bat now makes her way. The bat, settling around 300 feet up and moving slowly westward, picks a handful of bugs right out of the air and then begins to take longer between meals. She decides this is not the place to settle and instead begins to move somewhere else entirely, heading toward the Rio Grande. The 10 to 12 miles to the river is not unfamiliar to her. It's one of her favorite places to eat, with a waterfront view and plenty of bugs. A Mexican free-tailed bat can fly up to 100 miles in a single night. So this is not an unreasonable commute. Soaring over the desert, the bat crests the last small ridge to see the Rio Grande moving darkly and silently below. It is now deep into the night. Earlier in the afternoon, the thunderclouds must have just missed the cave because rain has fallen here. The ground is a darker shade of brown than usual, and the cool, rusty scent of petrichor, the smell after rain falls on a dry surface, hangs above the quiet desert waterway. But it is not entirely quiet for the bat, as she can hear that the clouds of bugs are out in force. Flies, gnats, moths. A flying bug at night is a flying bug at night, and she will eat any insect she can catch. Fluttering down toward the riverbank, the bat dives and swoops, catching the occasional bug and scoping the scene. Along the bank, she spots many bugs, crickets, ants, caterpillars, mosquitoes, up off the damp earth, clinging to the winding branches of the plants. A bat may occasionally pluck bugs off the top of plants, but this is a dangerous proposition. If the bat hits the ground, hits the plants, or miscalculates and falls into the river, they are a sitting duck, very vulnerable to all types of predators. The bat glides smoothly over the bug-laden plants, not looking for a meal, but to check the scene and pick up speed. She lifts into the sky and finds the perfect cloud of flying bugs above the river. The bat was right to approach the river. Tonight, she finds a large migrating cloud of bugs high above the water, in the middle of their own journey north. One of a bat's favorite things is to find a cloud of migrating insects. There are incredible migrations of all types of bugs that fly from Canada to Mexico and beyond, sometimes in massive clouds invisible to humans. Both bug clouds and the dense clouds of bats following them can show up on a Doppler radar. The sheer scale of these phenomena are hard to comprehend, like entire thunderclouds made of living beings. From her patch of sky above the river, this bat feasts. But the buffet is not solely hers for long. Other bats take note of the bug cloud and begin to join above this patch of the Rio Grande. There are many species of bat in the sky tonight, but the Mexican free-tailed bat has a few advantages. Of course, her speed, the fastest in the world. And she has one more incredible tool in her tool belt. As she swoops down on a specific bug, another Mexican free-tailed bat joins the chase and attempts to outmaneuver her to the meal. This bat, a male who lives in another section of Jornada Cave, begins to echolocate, mapping out the trajectory of a small, tricky bug. He emits his sound when suddenly the female bat makes a different noise entirely, and the male bat loses his reed. Confused, he tries again. But all he can hear is a loud, wavering, clicking tone. What would normally be a clear map returned as echolocation is suddenly a blurry image. That is because this bat, like all Mexican freetails, has a trick up her sleeve. She can jam the echolocation of other bats. As a rival bat emits echolocation, the Mexican free-tailed can sing a loud, jarring tone like the bat equivalent of an ambulance siren, effectively masking the sound waves around both of them. So when the rival bat makes his noise, he cannot clearly hear his own tone bouncing back to himself. The rival bat tries once more, but the female bat is ready and jams his echolocation again. The rival bat takes note and rises to a different altitude to try his luck in a more isolated patch of sky. As the female bat picks bug after bug out of the air, she can begin to rest easy. She has had plenty to eat and will be able to produce enough milk for her pup buck in the cave. Darting through the cloud of migrating bugs, she takes a few more bites for good measure and then begins her flight back home. As she leaves the river valley, she finds that the desert has cooled considerably. Approaching dawn, it is the coldest part of the day, and the other nocturnal animals seem to be wrapping up their nights as well. The coyote again howls in the distance. Behind, on the western horizon, the clouds have long receded. The sky is clear, now moonless, and filled with the pulsating pinpoints of millions of stars. It's not just this bat who's homebound. It's been a good night for all the bats of Jornada Bat Caves, and they begin to meet on their way back to the cave. Like the confluence of many small creeks and tributaries into a larger stream, then a river, the bats flow toward home. Through the commotion, the bat spots a rattlesnake on the ledge of red rocks near the mouth of the cave. This is likely the warmest place to be this time of night, as the rocks still retain some heat from the desert sun. But the bat flies steadily over this final thread and in the blink of an eye crosses the threshold of the cave. She's home. As she enters the cave, the mother bat makes a beeline for the nursery. All night long, her pup has been stashed in a safe part of the cave with all of the other bat pups. They hung upside down and wait for their mothers to come home. When she reaches the nursery, she latches to the ceiling and begins to climb around the other pups, smelling each to try to locate her own. Starting at the edge, she works her way in, but has no luck. Full and still satisfied from a successful hunt, she begins again and works her way across the colony. Toward the center, she finds her pup and spends some time grooming and then feeding him. Bats feed their young through milk, and the female bat's nipple is under her wing, which allows her to hold her young on the side of her body for a couple of weeks. He's too young to know much about the outside world, but by the end of summer, he'll join her on her flights to the world out there. But for now, he and the other pups are visited and fed by their mothers in the safety of the cave. When she has done her parental duty, she says goodnight and heads back to her own place in the cave. The roost is always active, and there is never a truly quiet time here. While some bats are sleeping, others are flying around, socializing. Pods will sleep while others are awake, but not in an organized manner. It's a very chaotic and social home environment. Tonight, she socializes with friends. This often takes the form of grooming, cleaning each other off, and settling down after a long night. Though the roost is chaotic, this is home, and she is used to the commotion. Like being rocked to sleep by the sound of the living city. She closes her eyes and begins to doze. It's been a long night of foraging for bugs. Outside the cave, the sky just barely starts to brighten as the stars dim. The bat falls asleep. Many others do too. And the cave hums quietly with the sound of thousands of others nodding off together. Outside, the rattlesnake has moved on, and the rock ledge is silent and still. Across the valley, the coyote and her own pup trot through the scrub. The stars sail quietly across the sky, drifting slowly over the high desert, a dry place full of unexpected life.